Good afternoon. I am Becky Maris, a Barnabas team member and sophomore here at Calvin, and I would like to welcome you to the January Series 2010 of Calvin College. Please take a moment to silence your cell phones. And would you pray with me? Father God, thank you for this opportunity we have to come and learn about how to be better citizens of your world. As we work towards furthering your kingdom, please help us remember that we are servants daily living under your grace. Please be with Mr. DeVos as he speaks to us today. Thank you for the way he supports and gives to the Grand Rapids community. May everything that is said and done today give you glory. In your precious name, amen. And now, Galen Biker, president of Calvin College, will introduce our guest.
Well, our speaker today is known as one of Grand Rapids' most prominent and generous citizens. He is known for his faith in God, his love of his family, his entrepreneurial spirit, his care for those in need, his commitment to his church and the community, and what he's going to talk about today, his passion for motivating others. Rich is familiar to us in West Michigan, but he's also known around the United States and around the globe for his motivational speeches to thousands, from large groups of senior executives to commencement addresses at small Christian schools. He graduated from Grand Rapids Christian High School and attended Calvin College, after which he spent 2 years in the United States Air Force. He married Helen Van Wiesep of Grand Rapids in 1953, and they have 4 children and 16 grandchildren. In 1949, Rich and his friend Jay Van Andel formed the Jari Corporation, distributing products through direct sales. And in 1959, they founded the Amway Corporation. In 2000, Amway became a subsidiary company of Alticor, along with 2 other sister companies, Quickstar, which focused on e-commerce, and Access Business Group, a product development, manufacturing, and logistics provider. In 2007, Alticor reintroduced the Amway brand in North America in a strategic business transformation. And as some of you sports fans know, in 1991, Rich and his family purchased the Orlando Magic of the National Basketball Association, and he serves as its chairman. Rich has written 4 books. The first was entitled Believe, then Compassionate Capitalism, and then Hope from My Heart, 10 Lessons for Life, written while he was involved with his heart replacement surgery. And his most recent book, 10 Powerful Phrases for Positive People. Rich DeVos is an entrepreneur, a builder, an encourager, and a model of generous Christian stewardship. Today he will speak on lessons learned. Calvin College is grateful to Huntington Bank for underwriting today's presentation. Please join me in welcoming our neighbor, friend, and supporter, Rich DeVos.
Thank you, everybody. One, two, three. Thank you. That's a very warm welcome to a prophet who's usually not honored in his own country. Is that the way that goes? Thank you, Galen, for those kind words. My notes over here say, let's be honest, Galen. All those things may be true, but really I'm a sinner, saved by the grace of God in Christ Jesus. That's who I really am, you know. And so all the rest of it is, by the grace of God, has all happened. Surprises me, it's probably as much as it surprises you, that we have come this far and all these things have happened. I see my son Douglas over here, and his wife Maria, and family. Wow. We won't name all of them over there, but thanks, Doug and Maria, for bringing that wonderful crowd with you. Somebody must be in school. Michaela's here, and the rest of it, anyway. It's always honored when your grandchildren come, but you have to be careful. You have to tell the truth because they know who you really are, you know. That's why it's always nice to have friends, because your friends are friends even though they know who you are and what you are. The speech today is about a book, my last book, 10 Powerful Phrases for Positive People. Not a sophisticated book. It's been a good selling book, and people seem to like it and get results from it and be pleased with it. So we have a copy for all of you. When you leave here, you'll be given a copy. So you don't have to take notes. You can just sit back and smile and have a little fun today, and we'll talk about some of my experiences. The book comes from some things Billy Zioli used to say in a speech, and he had about 4 or 5 phrases he used to talk about. And that's why I dedicate the book to Billy. Kim Bruin, who was also here, said, you know, you got to do another book. I said, no, I had done enough books, and I'm old, and nobody cares, and what I write everybody else knows and heard anyway. She says, well, you mind if we try and see if anybody would like to publish any of your old speeches? I said, well, that's okay. I've given this speech a few hundred times and on these phrases, and lo and behold, they found a publisher who said, yeah, we'd love to publish that book, and more than that, we'll give you an advance. Now, usually the problem is finding a publisher, and they said, we'll give you, what is it, 80 or 90,000? Something like that, anyway. And I said, wow, that's pretty good. Maybe if somebody likes it, we'll try it. So I sat down with Kim and the guy that is in this book and writes for us all the time, and I want to make sure I get his name right over here. I'm getting old, and my name is going away from me a little bit right at the moment. Excuse me. He's sitting right there, and I'm looking right at him, and now we're both embarrassed. You know, that reminds me of when you meet people. I always say, hi, I'm Rich DeVos. And they say, well, I know. Well, that gives them a chance to, if they didn't know, they got covered. So always introduce yourself, and then neither one of you will be embarrassed when they can't remember your name and you can't remember theirs. So we're both in good shape. Anyway, so that's how the book came to be. And it's been selling well. I think it's in, 12th printing? So that means it's pretty good. So you'll probably enjoy it, at least others have. The book's concept is of trying to teach people to be life enrichers, is my term. How to enrich the lives of others. Now, that's what we're all supposed to be doing all the time anyway, but we oftentimes don't. So let me just give you some stories from my life, and that's what the book is all about. Some illustrations of how I have used that and how it has worked for me. Now, I'm a big fan of Norman Vincent Peale. Now, I came to know Norman. We had him speak many times. Now, that's a famous Reformed preacher. He's done pretty well, and I was at his wife's funeral recently, and knew Norman and was at several events with him. Came to know his family. He's a hope guy, you know. And he was telling a story, and it's in one of his books, and he said in a certain building at Hope or at Western Seminary, he said, I had a professor there, and one day he said to me, Peale, why don't you stand up and speak up? You know this material. Why don't you put up your hand up and give us an answer instead of crouching down as if you don't know it? And then he said, I had another one who got on me for not standing up and speaking up. And so he said, I was walking down a step, and I can tell you this step was the 4th step down in a certain building. I said, Norman, you got to become a more positive person, and you got to start to speak up and stand up. Now that's an amazing turnaround for a shy little farm guy, and became what he did. I recently picked up a book by a Dr. Norman Doidge, D-O-I-D-G-E. He's a brain guy, psychiatrist. And he, in his studies, has said, I can confirm to you the power of positive thinking scientifically, because so many people ridicule that whole idea of positive thinking. I can show you positively that turning yourself into a positive thinker will change your brain and how it functions and how you think about yourself and what you can accomplish. Now, it's been laughed at in most of my life, and people say, oh, that's just wishful thinking. Well, I don't think it's wishful thinking. Norman didn't think it was wishful thinking. His was all biblically based. And Bob Schuller did pretty good with it. I did pretty good with it. And so, teaching that and teaching people the concepts of uplifting others. Norman's books were not just about uplifting, they were about teaching you to encourage and enrich the lives of others. I was just talking to some of the students a little earlier. They give us the privilege of doing that. And we got talking a little bit about what did you learn or didn't you learn in life that you wished you'd changed. I said, one of the things I wished I had done different is to learn to witness earlier. I think we're weak in that. Most people are weak in it because they're afraid and they're shy and all that. And I said, late in life, I learned how to do that. And I learned to do it by talking to other people and asking them about what they believed. I would ask them so many questions that finally they'd say to me, well, what do you believe? And I could witness to them. Now, that's a nice entry, isn't it? Now, you've got a lot of friends that you could ask that to. What do you believe? Where do you go to church? Do you go to church? Do you pray at home? Just routine stuff, and pretty soon you'll find yourself telling what you believe and challenging them to accept Jesus Christ as their Savior. This is just stuff you grow up with, but I'm just going to go through some of these things. I got Norman's name down here, but I made even a few notes to talk about. That's not what I usually do. I recently talked to all of our distributors because Galen gave me the license to at least go a little bit beyond the book here. And I thought back to all of the 50-year history of Amway and the 60-year history totally, because Jay and I were involved in selling Neutralite for 10 years before that, so we've been in this business literally all our lives since we were 23. And in all of that period, we had to talk to these people about Amway's first 50 years. And then one of our distributors in California said, well, what did your faith have to do with this business? Now, that was an interesting question. And so I had to ponder a little bit about that and about some of the founding things we had done in our business. And when I got all through with that, I summed it up to them. We were talking in 22 languages. We had 22 interpretation booths on the stage that day from people from all cultures and all backgrounds and all religions that you can't imagine. But I said, what it finally comes down to in your business and how you run it is you first and me second. Take that home with you. You first and me second. The first thing you want to do is help your people succeed, and then you succeed. Just keep it in the right order. It's not you succeeding and then hopefully they come out okay. It's all about them, not about you. And I think that was the foundation of our business. You know, Jay and I never talked about how much money we made or how much money we wanted to make. We talked about how big we'd like to have our business, but it was never a personal financial goal. But our focus was on how we could enrich the lives of our people and make them better, oftentimes influencing them with our faith as well. It's hard to do sometimes in China because the police are sitting in the front row. They still do that, Doug? Not as much, okay. They were always monitoring every word you said. If I said the word freedom, the interpreter was taught not to translate that. If I said profit, you couldn't translate that word. If I said free enterprise, they wouldn't translate it. That's how touchy the situation was. So I would just tell them in that case about my heart, about all things that had happened to me. And I said, what a miracle those things are, you know. That can only be through the hand of God. And if I left it at that, but you find ways to communicate what you want to communicate if you have a target of what you want to say. So that was kind of how I got here, by enriching the lives of the people we dealt with. Now, this book kind of deals with that. And there are just 10 phrases in there that will help you. The publisher said 10. I had 5 or 6, and they said, no, we want 10. I said, why do you want 10? They said, well, 10 sells better. So I said, I'll give you 10. So I hope you will remember the ones I have selected. But I want you to know that you can, this is a game, you know, you make them up as you go. Mine are just an example for you to follow, that you find phrases to the people you know of how to help them feel better about themselves, think better of themselves, believe in what they can do. One of the students said to me, well, what advice do you have for going to college? I said, go out of here with a foundation that you can do any goal you have set. Just go out of here with that kind of an attitude. Don't hang around here forever thinking if I learn more, I'll do better. You already know enough when you get out of here. Get going. Because this fear lingers with people that I don't know enough. I'm not smart enough. If you wait till you know everything, you'll never do anything. You've got to go with what you got. And when you leave here, you got it. Even if you go to Hope, you got it. I got a few Hope people, so we got to get down in here a little bit. So let me start with the first one. First word is, I am wrong and I'm sorry. That's a simple phrase. The hardest phrase. And that's why I started with it in the book. It is so difficult to say that. After I wrote this book, a doctor came up to me and said, I have an associate that 10 years ago we had a very strong disagreement. We haven't spoken to each other since. And then he said, I got a Christmas card from him. And at the bottom he said, I'm wrong and I'm sorry. You know, he said, I called him up. We're going to have dinner together now. But it took somebody 10 years to say that simple phrase. You could say, you're right, I'm wrong. All people find that hard, I think especially politicians. There's a feeling that you cannot admit you made a mistake. And I know a few presidents, and that was true of all of them. And President one is no exception, by the way. But I'm wrong and I'm sorry. Doug is here, and I tell a little story on Doug. One night Doug came in later than he should have, but he'd been traveling with me, and he'd heard me make the speech about this, and so I'm waiting for him. I'm chomping at the bit. I'm a little unhappy. Our oldest son, Dick, says, you should hear my dad. If you think if he's a good speaker, you should hear him at 2 o'clock in the morning when you come in late. That is when he makes his best speeches. But Doug came in a little late, but he'd heard all this. He walks to the door and said, hi, Dad. I'm wrong and I'm sorry. Now, what do you do with that? You give him a hug and say, well, I'm glad you're home safely. All those good words you had about calling, you got a telephone, you know, you dumb kid and all that, it's all wasted. But it's disarming when you get into disagreements with people, when you just step up and say, you're right, I'm wrong. You know, sometimes I would make decisions at Amway, and big ones that impacted the millions of people. and you know you do that, and you think you got everybody's view in mind, and you think you've thought about everybody and everything, and then you announce it, and the phone rings and said, "Hey, did you think about this?" "No, I'm sorry, I did not." "Well, you didn't think about how it affected me." "No, I really didn't. I'll think about that, and we'll see if we can correct it. You're right and I'm wrong." Now that just ends it. It finishes it. It cleans up a lot of the messes you're living with just because you can't do that. Between husband and wife, between your children and you, I'm wrong and I'm sorry. I have another granddaughter. She's not here today. I tell it anyway. She goofed around in high school, wanted to get Michigan State. I told her grades were too bad. I'm thinking she's feeling real sad. The president of Michigan State came over to tell her and showed her what her grades were, and just said, "You know, you messed around in high school. You messed up." So I called her, and this is another way to use the word "I'm sorry." I said, "Cassie, I'm so sorry you couldn't get into Michigan State." She said, "It's okay, Grandpa, it's my fault. I messed up, so I got to pay the price for it. So don't worry about it, I'm just fine." Well, that was the right attitude. But my use of the word sorry, I'm sorry, is the other way you use that word. I'm sorry. We're sorry for people. We're sorry for the people in Haiti right now. I see we got a lot of airplanes running back and forth. When I came in the hangar, all I see is all piles of material heading for Haiti. And what a nice thing that company is doing. Those are nice people over there, isn't it? Aren't they? Yeah, okay. You're supposed to applaud or do something on that, you know. So good for them anyway. I can say that because I had nothing to do with it. I had a guy in Florida ask for an airplane. I said, "No, I don't think so." But Doug and them are doing it, and I'm proud of them. My third little chapter is on "You Can Do It." You know, I was a poor student at Grand Rapids Christian High School. When I came out of Baldwin Christian School, they must have told them over there that I wasn't too bright because it was obvious that I wasn't college material. And they had the word. You know, they said, "No, you shouldn't take pre-college courses." And well, okay, I did. I took Latin once on the condition, I passed on the condition I'd never take that class again. I say that to you, I was an okay student. I got through. But then, in my yearbook, Dr. Leonard Greenway, some of you know him, may remember him, very famous preacher. Very good. Taught Bible at Christian High. I never took a class from him. And he writes in there, "To a clean-cut young man with talents for leadership in God's kingdom." Wow. I'd never heard that word. But I left that school with that lift because of one phrase from one man, that I could do something. In their Model A Ford that sits in the lobby at Christian High, I put there because of a remembrance that at Christian High, it isn't always what you learn in the classroom. It may be who you meet and who your associations are, other things that lift you up. I met Jay Van Andel there, which of course changed my life. Became a source of great encouragement. Jay always got A's and never took a book home. He was just a bright guy. I took my books home and never got an A. We made a good partnership, I guess. But Dr. Leonard Greenway's one line, never forgot it. Big boost to me. 40 years later at a class reunion, now I'm doing pretty well, and I was class president, so I was speaking, and I said, Dr. Greenway, you wrote something in my yearbook 40 years ago I never forgot. And he stood up and says, I will tell you what I wrote in your yearbook 40 years ago. And he quoted the line back to us. Afterwards, I wondered, did he put that in every kid's yearbook? I found out he did not. That's the point of this whole little talk today. And you think maybe you're not important, but a line of encouragement from you can change a person's life. If young kids come over to your house, like we oftentimes had, I enjoyed talking to them. And some of them say, well, you told me this, and I still remember that. And even then, I was trying to use words of encouragement. I don't know what they were getting at home. But oftentimes you said at home, you dummy, you're not doing well, I'm ashamed of you, or whatever. But a lot of you come, and a lot of kids come out of homes that are not sources of encouragement at all. Maybe they just don't know. I don't know. But you've got to change that. And it starts at your house. And all leadership, Dr. Greenway talked about leadership, and everybody acts like leadership is being the president of Calvin Seminary or something. But leadership is what you do at home. That's where leadership begins. Leadership begins with you and having prayer at your meals. It begins with you taking your kids to church, doesn't it? That's real leadership. And that's what virtually all of you in this room have done so faithfully all your life. And sometimes you don't think of yourself as being a leader, but you have been a tremendous leader in bringing up your children and the fear of the Lord. And don't ever underestimate the importance of what you're doing. You can do it. My father talked to me all the time about what I could do. I grew up in the Depression. We had to move out of our house. We lived in my grandmother's attic for about 5 or 6 years. That's not a unique experience for those of you in my age group. But those are tough times. But my dad was never negative. Always said, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. You're going to do more things than I've ever done. You're going to see the world like I've never seen it. And he would go on as a great encourager. Now, he also said to me, get in business for yourself. Get in business for yourself. That was important to him. Became important to me. When Jay and I met, that's all we talked about, was getting in business. That may not be your goal. You never thought about it. But some of your young children ought to be thinking about it. We need new entrepreneurs building new businesses. I was honored at Michigan State the other day, and I said those words. I said, so you can't get a job? Then start a business and give somebody else a job. And I got a huge applause on that line. Because we have to think a little differently about being responsible and creative and doing what we got to do and not just being intimidated by the conditions that may be happening around us right now. You know why? Because you can do it. Never done it before? It's all right. A lot of things you've never done before. Go start a business. Think about what you could do. Now, fourth phrase is, I believe in you. I've used that all over the world with people. I use it with our distributors. I believe in you. I believe you can do this. I know you can do this. They're afraid and they don't think they can do it. And many of you grew up that way, not thinking you were good enough or able enough. You were more able than you ever thought. Most of us have never used all of our ability to do things. We've done okay. You've done okay. But you must think some days how well you could have done, how much more you could have done if you weren't so afraid of failing, being laughed at. Well, I deal with that every day with people all over the world who feel like that. We've either got to get them out of that or we don't have a business. So my business is to help them get out of that. And it's day by day helping people get out of that attitude of what they can't do and saying, I believe in you. And you're telling them that you believe in you, positive thinking, Pretty soon they'll believe you. And then they'll believe it themselves. I have a lot of distributors when we're traveling in the world say, when I sign their papers and anything they want you to sign, give me your autograph, especially in the Oriental world. Picture taking and signatures are awesome. Maybe that's all I have to do is run around the world posing or something, but holding it down, write down, you can do it. Write down my book, you can do it, you can do it. Okay, you can do it, love you, Rich. Just those words, but they're important from you just as they are from me. Or you can be a grumbler and find fault with them. There's plenty of things to find fault about you. I remember the day I was going to make my first little speech to a group, and it was an accountant in our office, and she said, will you speak to our little accountant group? And I said, how many people? She said, well, maybe 40. I said, well, okay, I'd never been asked out. Looked in the paper to see if my name would be in the paper. I thought that would be great. That's the old days. But one day I was talking to Mike, can't even think of his last name right now, who was editor of the press for many years. And he had been ripping up Don Lovers and complaining about how much money he made. And I went in and talked to him, and I said, do you want to destroy this town or do you want to help build this town? This is a guy who's helping this community, doing a good job running Grand Valley, building Grand Valley, and you find fault because he got a $50,000 increase or $10,000 increase in pay, and you're grumbling, I guess, because you don't make that much. But I'll tell you, if you don't pay them, you'll lose them. I've had that discussion one time at a public meeting with a hospital, and they were complaining what Breon made. I said, well, I sit on the board. You lose Breon, you'll pay a lot more to get to the next guy, I'll tell you that. Be grateful you have them. I'm not talking about the bonuses on Wall Street. I'm talking about people I know around here doing a good job and somebody who was bad-mouthing. In fact, I was talking to President Clinton at the time that the President of the United States, Obama, was blasting the Wall Street people. I said, these are the people who are helping build this country back. And yet he is organizing union groups to go around and stand around and ridicule them and intimidate them. I said, what a lousy way to try and build confidence and build up a country. You can't build it up by tearing people down. And if you don't like what they make, well, that's too bad, but that's what they earned, and they got the money by a contract they're working on. Talk about the respect of law and the respect of honoring that then. But if we're going to bring our country back, we've got to restore faith in each other, faith in our country, and faith in God. And you and I are the ones that have to reassure them. Tell people that over and over. They'll come to believe you, believe me. Another one I have is I'm proud of you. By the way, in believing with you, one of our pilots took a helicopter in Lake Michigan many years ago. He did what Sikorsky said nobody else had ever done. He got it down safely. Everybody survived. Another helicopter came in and notified them and picked them up and got them out of Lake Michigan in November. The next day I called him and I said, hey, I got to use the helicopter today. And so he met me and we went up. He said, where are you going? I said, I'm not going anywhere. I just want to go for a ride with you. I just want to let you know I believe in you. I have complete faith in you. You have done a marvelous thing, so let's be confident about it. These are what I call being lifter-uppers. Signs of encouragement. You can do it everywhere, no matter where you are. If you begin to look for that, you find people who are capable every category of life that you meet them in. I don't care whether they're a truck driver or a garbage guy. There are garbage guys who do a great job and quietly work through the neighborhood and do it effectively and honorably. They're worthy of your praise. And you should go out of your ways to give them that praise. One time I went out and found a garbage guy who was doing a good job at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I got up and I said, I just want to tell you that. They said, mister, I've been doing this 20 years. Nobody ever told me I did a good job. I said, allow me. People are dying for recognition and a little bit of encouragement. You and I should be doing it over and over every day. I'm proud of you. It's a wonderful line. You can find better ones. Something like, you're special. That's a nice one. I didn't put that in my book, but it's one I use, along with others. You can dream them up better than I can. But I used to write notes. I have those little pads from written desk coverage, DeVos and so forth. And I usually didn't dictate letters. Dictate letters were better than an email. I don't mind an email, but who puts them up on the wall if you got an email? Who saves an email? But a handwritten note is saved. And when distributors write, say, oh, my son just became an Eagle Scout, and I write him, how wonderful, and I says, send a little note, how great it is, all little handwritten notes, and I wrote them by the thousands, and years later, one woman said, I've had that on my refrigerator 3 years already. Wow. How often people don't get recognized for what they do. To get a son to become an Eagle Scout. What a huge achievement for a mother. Important, so important, she kept it on the wall for years. I started a process with Kim of watching the newspaper. I said, Kim, look for the newspaper and find everybody who's doing outstanding things in the city. We'll send them a book and send them a letter congratulating them. And so we have done thousands to people all over Grand Rapids and the Michigan state of Michigan primarily. And I send a book, whatever the current book is, and send it out and tell them how proud I am of what they're doing. People meet me on the street and tell me, I got one of your letters. I got your book. They don't know me. I don't know them. And we still do it. We still send them out on a regular basis just to tell people how much we appreciate what they're doing. But, it's a little note to a school teacher to thank you for bringing the boots home and finding the mittens and doing all the other things they have to do besides try to teach your child. A little note. We're not very good at it. My son Dan said to me the other day, he said, Dad, I just picked up your book again. And I realized I do not do a good job writing little thank you notes. So I thought I'd send you one. So he sent me a nice little thank you note for the book and other things. How nice. How good are you at it? Practice. Thank you. Another phrase. This is a complicated phrase. You've probably used it once or twice. But our thanks go to God every day, I trust. I don't write them notes usually, but my messages get through, just as you do. But you got to let people know that you do that every day. And don't be afraid to talk that way. I thank God for my job. I was not in favor of this health care plan. I'm not opposed to helping people who need help. We have plans to do that. And we're working in all sorts of ways to try and kill that baby. You may not agree with me, that's okay. We're all friends. And then the Lord comes along and brings this guy up from Massachusetts where you never expected anything to happen. Now, all of our finagling and advertising and whatever else we were doing with a lot of things. And then the Lord just makes a little switch. I mean, the hand of God so evident. But you see, you and I have to talk about that. And Galen just told me that he comes from a Christian Reformed church. How'd you like that? Pretty good, huh? Pretty good. I like his truck even more. But, God works in his own ways. Elsa Prince's husband, Ren, I had solicited some money for a contribution at Grand Valley. Sorry, Galen. He was on their list, and we were meeting downtown and walking the parking lot, and he was dressed. He was 90 years old, and he looked fabulous. I used to think that was old, by the way. At almost 84, I don't feel that way anymore, but he looked great. And I said, man, you look like $1 million. And we went upstairs and had lunch. I said, you know, I look like it. I'd like to have you give $1 million. And he said, okay. He had a son-in-law with him who was a lawyer. And I said, you know, for a little more money, we'll name the whole building after you. And the son-in-law says, don't forget your grandchildren, Grandpa. Which is what he was supposed to do, I think. But anyway, he gave it. I got home, and Ren, I was telling Ren this story, and Ren said, did you witness to him? I said, no. But I said, I will. I'll call him tonight. And I called him up. It's Les Tassel. You may have heard of him. He had a big company. And I said, Les, thank you for your gift, but I want to ask you another question. What's your relationship with God, and are you at peace with him? He said, no, I don't have a relationship with God. And I chatted with him a little while and said, Les, you ought to get this settled. You know, you're getting a little old, and it's time to get it settled. And I recommend you get down on your knees tonight and ask God to come into your life and ask Christ to come into your life. Simple little presentation, huh? And then I talked to this family, and they said, you know, they called me up the next day. They said, hey, my dad accepted Christ last night. I said, hallelujah, praise the Lord. You know, I said, you guys been working? Oh, she said, we've been praying so hard for that. I said, isn't that amazing? And she said, then you come along and just confront him with it, and he suddenly accepts Christ. I said, I didn't come along. God came along and grabbed him that day, and he let me have a little bit of credit in there. And so we became good friends, and shortly thereafter, a month or two, he died. And I said to Helen, we were in Florida, I said, I'm going to fly up and go to the funeral. She didn't go, I saw. So I just got in the airplane, flew up, walked in the church. Undertaker saw me and said, I think you ought to go talk to the family. So I went over and talked to the family, and she saw me. His sister, his daughter came along, who'd been praying so hard for him. She gasped, you did come. Obviously, they'd wondered whether I cared enough to come. And I did. And God just said to me, you ought to go. And so they continue to support Grand Valley and other things. Then I ended up out at Rehoboth and found out they were giving to Rehoboth, all because of this relationship. You know, Ren, thank God for Ren reminding me that I had missed simple little line. So then when I speak at the funeral, I said, well, I'm happy to say a few words and tell them how this came to be, that we can all be joyful today, you know, at peace. I guess that's what I'm talking about. Little things you do that establish a relationship, that allows a door to open. I mean, you and I have got to lead the parade. We are delinquent. I think sometimes the whole denomination is delinquent in learning how to share our faith. I know we talk about it a lot, but we haven't made it a priority. And we should. Every time I make a speech, no matter where, I try to figure out how I'm going to get it in. But I'm going to work it in every speech to present the gospel. The good news. The bad news, that you're a sinner. The good news, you can be saved. You know, it's pretty simple. Anyway, that's just some more phrases. Thank you to God. I need you. 7. I'll move along. We'll get this over with. I'm dragging this out a little bit. See, if 6 is the right number, we would have quit already. So I'll just mention the other. I need you. How much we need each other. How much the Haitians need us. Well, we don't ruin them by giving them everything. How much your church needs your activity. How much the Christian schools need our support. You know, we're needed. I don't care how old you are. There's a place and a part for you to play right now. So we just move on. I got some lines down here. I remember one time we were making a landing and suddenly the weather got deteriorated and the tower came on and, you know, cleared us into land, and then the landing gear wouldn't come down, and the tower guy stuck with us, and the guy I was flying with, he just switched over and pulled out one little thing and put another bulb in there and said, oh, just a bulb burned out. That took care of the gear problem. But what do you do with a bad night you're coming in if your guy isn't up in that tower to take care of you? If your garbage isn't hauled away? If your electricity doesn't come on? All these things that we live with every day, somebody makes them happen. Somebody deserves your gratitude. I trust you. Just like I trusted our helicopter pilot. Our helicopter pilot runs our whole aviation department today. He's a good man. I respect you. That's a good phrase to use. It's a powerful phrase. Somebody says, how do you get respect? Oh, it's simple to get respect. You show respect. That's all. But if you don't show respect to other people, they're not going to respect you. I had a captain on one of our boats once. He said, I demand respect from my crew. I went down and talked to the crew. They hated him. I got rid of him. He didn't know that you gain respect by showing respect. So practice the line, because when you say, I respect you, you send a powerful message. I was on a Donahue show once, and Donahue was raking Amway over the coals, and me with it. And had some distributors there telling me how rotten it was. And that's okay. I've had the FTC do that, so he didn't have to do that. And I got a postcard, an open postcard. You know those old kind of cards you used to buy for a penny? And on the backside it says, DeVos 10, Donahue nothing. Love, Barbara Bush. Now, is that a quick way to send a message of respect and belief and all the other things? Can you do that? You probably can't get postcards like that anymore, but probably you have a piece of paper you could write something on. Every time you hear something good, they say, I respect you. I'll show you respect. You show respect just by writing the message. Things you and I can do so easily every day. And my last one is I love you. Your love for God because He first loved you. And so that love gives you the right and the permission and the power to tell others that you love them, doesn't it? In our family, whenever we hang up, we say, love you. When I sign a book or sign a letter, I sign, love you, even if it's to a president of the United States. I sign it with my phrase, love you. Helen and I use the phrase all the time. Boy, he's testing to make sure she still does after all the stupid things I do. Because I'm a sinner. And so we have to accept the fact that we're sinners and we do things wrong, and we got to love each other anyway. I don't know what I can tell you to do about Tiger Woods, but I know Tiger. Tiger comes to our ball games. He's a good fan. He isn't a big guy to cozy up to. He would just come, would not sign signatures, and wouldn't pose for pictures. He just came and sat in the front row and cheered our team on. But that's my 10. Dr. Tomatis is in the front row. I love him because I'm alive because of him. He brought me to a doctor in London who considered me for a heart and then said he'd give me a heart. And he said it would take 4 days to find out whether he'd consider me. And after a couple hours chatting, he said, okay, I'll see if I can get you a heart. He wasn't what my condition was. He knew that. He wanted to know whether I had a reason to live. I told him about my grandchildren. I told him about our children. That I wanted to watch them graduate. I wanted to be with them. I wanted to see them grow up because I loved them. And he says, okay. The power of love. He also knows that people who get hearts that have love and a family to love them and care for them do better than those who do not have family to support them. And you talk about love and paying for love. We went to London to wait for a heart, and our children agree that each one would be there. So somebody was with Helen all the time. Each took a week and came and stayed with her, stayed with us. Sometime with family, sometime alone, whatever they could work out, but they took turns. That's a love quotient, how you show that love. By giving up to help others. Luis Tomatis stayed with me every minute in London, through the operation, through the healing, pushed my wheelchair around and kept encouraging me and telling me I could do it, telling me we're going to be okay. And here we are 12 and a half years later. Helen says to me, why are you going to go out and make that speech? I says, because I have a love story to tell of how God loved me and saved me, but how also He provided a new heart for me. That's a love story. And I have to share that story of how God gave me these extra years to tell you about all of this love quotient and about how you and I can make a difference to change the lives of the people around us. It's not complicated. It's not difficult. If I can do it, you can do it. That's another line I use. If I can do it, anybody can do it. But while we were waiting in London, we read Ephesians 4. And it confirms what I've been talking about for you, and I'm going to read it. Philippians 4, 4-9, and you know it as well as I do. Rejoice in the Lord always. I will say it again, rejoice. Let your graciousness be known to everyone. Every morning in London, waiting to see whether we'll live or die. This is what we read. And we were totally at peace whether I lived or whether I died. I can't tell. Everybody says, must have been so hard. It wasn't hard at all. And those of you that are living with people who are sick or dying, just share this with them. Read it to them every day. I spoke to a group of Marines who were heading overseas not long ago, and I quoted this verse to them. I printed it out on a nice little plasticized card, and I said, keep it in your breast pocket. Once a day, just take this out and read it, and those of your loved ones have them read it at home, and I gave copies to them. And at some agreed upon time, perhaps maybe at the same time, you would read this every day, to rejoice in the Lord always. I love it. I used to be able to do it without reading it for you. The Lord is near. Don't worry about anything. But in everything, through prayer and petition with thanksgiving, let your requests be known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses every thought, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Finally, brethren, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is any moral excellence and if there is any praise, dwell on these things. Power of positive thinking. Dwell on the positive. Think about the good things. Think about your blessings. And then become a life enricher. The last phrase that I read, do what you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, and the God of peace will be with you. Well, we found God of peace was with us. And I pray he is with you today and all the days of your life. But today the challenge is to be a life enricher to others by a powerful phrase of encouragement. You, today, can change the life of someone else by your simple words of encouragement. You can do it. I believe in you. I trust you. I love you. I respect you. I'm proud of you. Oh, I'm so proud of you. I'm so grateful I grew up in this church. I'm so grateful that God loves me despite who I am. And so I can walk with confidence and share with confidence because God loves me. Anyway, and I'm honored to be here. It's a great thrill to be asked to come and speak here. And Galen and those of you that decided it was okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you. Thank you. No, okay. Good guy. Thank you. Good guy. Thank you.
Thanks again, Rich, and thank you all for coming. They'll be passing out copies to those who are in attendance. So let's give Rich one last good hand.